This is IBM Museum. Recently, I've had some content on the PC Junior, but I've actually been seeing some articles coming across about it's not called the PC Senior, but the original IBM PC. And the Hackaday, which I have a subscription to, and it brings articles, sometimes several articles a day, into my inbox. They had a very recent article just in the last day or so, and it had a link back to this article earlier in the month. And the reason I'm not showing the Hackaday article is because that has a black background and lighter lettering, and the browser capture in OBS just doesn't do the thing justice. I'll include the link in the video description, but I'm going to go through and kind of operate from a backward aspect. And I believe that there's a link in here. And this article's titled "How the Intel 8088 Got Its Bus." The main aspect of the articles is talking about how that initial CPU of the IBM PC was decided upon back in the very early 1980, when IBM just suddenly put together a team and tried to come up with a way for the design of what the IBM PC was going to become. And either, if I can't find the link here, I'll link all these articles in there. I don't know if, it's probably just better for me to put the link in there directly. Of course, we get all the ads and everything else with OBS of those pages. Let me switch over to that last page. And this page is actually just text, a couple images, and it's a much older article because this is even from September of 1990, which it effectively would be, 10 years from that initial design team. And that's what it's talking about. This is by David J. Bradley, and going through and talking about the conditions that existed, and talks about a little known system, the Data Master, which is it's the System 23. And I don't have I have a variant, I guess it's very similar to the Data Master, the System 23. I've got the 5120 unit that I'll likely pull out at some later point in time to kind of show and just talk about the basic and programming language that was built in to those systems, and for the System 23 Data Master as well as the 5120. That's what it has on there. And the pictures on this were rather interesting because it shows the original, once it came to a PCB, of those 5 IO bus connections for adapters, and just the layout, the minimal layout. And I even thought it was interesting, the power connection looks like what the Model 60 and 65SX and Model 80, the tower systems, had for their connection. That was that same power connection was reused for them. Probably doesn't have near about the same pinouts or anything like that on that, but that was that original power supply of whatever board level this was. It wasn't the conventional inline connections that we'll see in a moment when I show how the PC board, how the motherboard came out from IBM was released. But this is just a very minimal amount of memory. And they even showed the back side of this, where all the wire wrap was going through and prototyping this board out. So it's just a fascinating article. There's actual things about the why the Intel 8088 CPU was selected. I have a little bit of differences. I don't believe it as much as coupled into the System 23 using the Intel 8085 CPU. I believe it's more of the display writer having an 8086, and the display writer was a unit and no expansion capabilities really to it at all. But really the same form factor of the size of the PC, a separate keyboard, looked a lot like the terminals, the 5250 terminals of that time, and a monitor that had a tilt and swivel actually on the top of the display writer. But who am I to undercut any of the description for somebody that was there? Just that I thought it'd make a little bit more sense if it were coupled to the data master, and it's gonna be not the display writer having that 8086 CPU. But I want to get to where I can show what's on the bench here. I've got the two boards nestled together. I can go through and bring them up to the camera. Probably turn on my ring light for ultimately a little bit more lighting to it. And I'll go through. Let's get the internal webcam turned off so you guys don't see that phase difference. I know I'm still working kind of low on the bench here, but these are, and this doesn't take as much RAM. On the live stream that I've coming up, I've got the Mul 60, 65SX, and Mul 80 that I brought back from Edgar Digital. I'm going to need my new studio completed, and so I have that bigger area that I can go through and do those systems, because those are very big systems. I could do one of those systems here. I'll actually do a video here in a moment tonight, bringing the Mul 60 back out and kind of looking at it. But this is the original PC motherboard. The 5 expansion slots. Things look very similar. I mean, the layout's a little bit different. Here is the 8088 CPU, a socket for the 8087. That inline power connector, like I'm talking about, it kind of became the standard for the PC, the XT, and the PC AT, or the IBM AT. And that was just known as an AT power supply for those leads. And of course, on the motherboard itself, it actually has the cassette port that later disappeared with the XT motherboards. I actually picked up a couple of the XT motherboards as well from Edgar Digital. I'll show those at a later time, and just to show a little bit how the motherboard changed from the PC to the XT. Now this one is, and it has one bank of RAM that's soldered in, and this bank is actually supposed to be populated, and it's had the chips removed for that particular, the bank one, and it actually has labels on it of the CPU board, and then they talk about bank 0. It's got these gold RAM chips in it, bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, and then speaker connection and things like that. So this board is in relatively good shape. Has the ROM. I'll have to figure out what version it's got in there, and certainly there are images online. I can go through with my EEPROM programmer and come up with some chips, because I'm going to need to in this case. This one looks a lot more rougher. In fact, it's dirty. It's got green corrosion on the underside. Doesn't have the nice gold chips here. It has that bank zero soldered in place, and then it's got the other RAM socketed there. And a lot of time that the error codes that came up for what RAM chip, and you would get what was called chip creep with these. I had one XT motherboard that I'd have to go through and seat the RAM memory on it from time to time, just get it more seated in the socket, because it'd actually go through and creep out. And even look at that. That's look at that corner RAM chip. It's hanging on by the one set of pins, just all the filters. So this board here, and this side is really dirty. It's missing all the ROMs. Generally, there was one socket that was left open, as on this board. And these are both the 64 KB to 256 KB boards. Yeah, this one is in a lot worse shape. I'll even have to look. See, they've got the part number there. They've got a silk screen down here at this bottom edge to figure out which of these is older. Of course, this is a brown PCB, and this being a green PCB, although that can also be inverted, where the later on the brown PCBs were the earlier printed circuit boards that IBM produced, and then when they kind of firmed up the design, they produced it with the green, although that differs with the CGA video boards and things like that. The green PCB CGA adapters are they're older, and then the brown PCB ones like this are for the CGA adapters are the newer versions. So, but just got a couple of those to go through and work with. I can probably get this one reworked and kind of combine some stuff. At least grab what hopefully still have a good bank of RAM among all this memory that's on this one. So hopefully I can get these going. But I thought it'd be just interesting to show, and I didn't need that much space for just showing the two boards I got from Edgar Digital of the PC, effectively the senior, but the original PC. So let me go through, get back on screen here, and if you enjoyed the video of me showing the motherboard for the IBM PC, and so I go through and work with that, there may be later videos as get it actually in a case and get it working and things like that. But go ahead and click on that like button if you enjoyed the video. And by all means, subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. But this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.